Spring Boot is a framework that allows you to quickly build and deploy Java server-side applications using the very popular framework called Spring. Now I know we all love our XML files, but this Spring Boot is going to configure everything that we need, including our build and our dependencies via Gradle. It's going to download all of our dependencies, it's going to figure out what dependencies we need, and it's going to create the entire configuration for the application and launch it in an embedded server. So, to get started, we're going to just go ahead and we're going to clone this base project, and we're going to walk through the basic steps of getting a Spring Boot application up and running. Excellent. So, let's go ahead and import this project. Now you'll notice that they gave us 3 different copies. We're actually just going to import this completed copy, and we're going to double click the build.gradle. And by double clicking on the build.gradle, IntelliJ is going to know exactly how to import this, the entire file structure, everything. Now if you have Gradle installed on your machine already, you can use your local Gradle distribution. However, it's not necessary. You can actually use one that comes pre-packaged with IntelliJ. One thing to note is that Gradle may take a second to set the projects up. The reason why this is that it's actually downloading the Spring jars that you need from the internet and storing on your local computer. So depending on your internet connection, it may take longer, or this may actually be a pretty quick process. Spring Boot is very quickly becoming the de facto standard that they use at Spring. It's pretty fresh, but it's revolutionary in the fact that it simply looks at your application and sees what type of classes and what type of annotations you're using and what you've included in your Gradle. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to set up everything, download all the dependencies, and figure out everything else for you. Finish. Okay, great. Now we've got a fully functional IntelliJ project. It's going to be read here just for a second while we resolve a few more dependencies down here at the bottom. However, you'll notice that this class enables component scan, which means we're going to be able to scan all the classes within a set number of packages to find out if we have any Spring elements. Furthermore, we've enabled auto configuration as well as configuration, which I'm not really sure what that means. But this is the Spring Bootstrap. This is where our Java application starts, and this is where we kick off Spring. And that's where all the magic happens. In fact, right here is where we'll print out all of the bean names that get created whenever we start up our application. Here we just simply have a very simple Spring MVC web controller. And if we take a peek in the Gradle file, we have a couple of plugins being applied, including Spring Boot. But we also have the starter actuator and the starter web. Those two are important. But if you clone their example repo and then just delete the .git file, you can use this as your base project, and it'll get you started and get you up and going very, very quickly. So to run this project, all we have to do is right click in the main application, select run. So Spring Boot allows you to run your application in an embedded Tomcat server. So you don't have to have a Tomcat server installed on and configured on your machine. It's going to be able to run it on its own. In addition, it's going to, if you give it the correct options, it can also run your application in a Jetty application server, which is nice because it's very, very fast. Finally, if you do need to deploy this application, you can still build and compile the traditional WAR file that gets generated, that gets pushed out to remote web application servers. Okay, as you can see here, looks like we've printed out all the beans that have gotten created in the class path. And we have Tomcat started up on port 8080. And there we have it. Greetings from Spring Boot. That is a fully functional Spring-powered web application brought to you in just a couple minutes.